Welcome everyone to the Moldex3D Thermoset QuickStart tutorial, where today we'll be talking about how to set up a thermoset molding simulation using Moldex3D. To start off, we'll go ahead and create a new project in Moldex3D Studio. Once the Studio window opens, I can hit New, create a project name, call this Thermoset Demo. The location should be somewhere on your local drive. This will help to maintain the connection with the solvers that are also located on the local drive, and it'll also help to speed up your calculation. The module that we're going to be using is injection molding, right? And we'll simply import geometry. Once the model is imported, we'll usually throw this out to CADdoctor to help us with the configuration of the connection between all the surfaces. So I'll hit check geometry, and then I'll hit CADdoctor to export this model out to the third-party CADdoctor application. CADdoctor is very straightforward to use. I'm simply just going to click check, which is this magnifying glass button over here. That will search for any problems in the model. In this case, it looks like there's very few. I'll auto heal to try and get rid of those issues as much as I can. All right, looks like it didn't fix anything. Usually, if anything's left over from CADdoctor, it requires some sort of manual alteration, but these minor errors and even the serious level of errors, I usually don't worry about too much. It's the critical errors that I try to fix mainly in CADdoctor. So we'll go ahead and export this using the red arrow button up here. Once CADdoctor is completed, then I can attribute this as the part. I'll highlight the geometry and change the attribute to part. You'll see that the color will change from that dark gray to a beige color. Then I simply just need to place the gate wherever I intend to start my injection from. The injection port is just where the material is coming into the part geometry. So if you're just trying to study how the material is flowing through the part, or if there's going to be a premature curing or something like that, then you can just put a gate entrance on the part. You can really include as much information as you want to in these types of simulations. In this case, I'm just going to place a gate on the part geometry. And you do have control over the size of this gate as well. After I've placed the gate, I can control the dimensions by just simply going back into the attribution menu, mold base. The mold base is effectively just the metal block that encapsulates our entire mold configuration. I'm going to make sure that my parting direction is correct. In this case, it is the y-axis. By default, it finds the primary axial direction of our melt entrance, which was the z-axis based on how it's oriented. And I just changed that using the parting direction up here. You can also alter the length, width, and if I hit the blue arrow up at the top here, the height dimension to more accurately represent the dimensions of the mold. Now, the mold base isn't the end all for the heat transfer system. We need some way for heat to be transmitted into the part to cure the material. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. I think the easiest way, if you don't have a heating system yet and you want to consider that heating in Moldex3D, what you can do is create some quote unquote cooling channels, and then we can assign the temperature of these cooling channels to be hot. So the heat transfer direction would be switched from a typical injection molding process or thermoplastics. And so I can create these cooling channels. And it's just a bunch of straight lines across the mold base. I can change the channel direction. I can change the diameter of these cooling channels. I can change the number of cooling channels that occur on the cavity and core side of my mold. And I can change the width and height of these cooling channels between one another and from the part surface. Now, another methodology that you can use is to assign these as heater cartridges, which would be a purely conductive object that we would supply some sort of heat to. And so what I'll do here is I'll assign these as, instead of cooling channels, which is a flow component, I'll assign these as heating rods. So I highlight all 5 of those, and then I edit attribute, and I can change the attribute from cooling channel, which again is that flow object, to a heating rod, which is a purely conductive object. You can see the heating rod has that red color to it, and the cooling channels have the blue color. Now, a heating rod will not have a flow direction because it's purely conductive. So I'm going to get rid of my inlets and outlets that were originally assigned to my cooling channels. And we'll be able to see the definition of the process for both of those after we complete our mesh. That being said, we're going to go into the Mesh tab, and in order to get a good quality mesh on this part, I'm going to assign the node seating. I'll select my part, check mark. I'll apply the default node seating, see what it gives me. Usually what I like to do is looking down the parting direction, I can use the view cube to accomplish that. And then I zoom in the part so that it fills up the entirety of the modeling window. And what I like to get is 2 to 3 nodes width of space in between these nodes. You can watch the Moldex3D meshing guide for a little bit more information at the link here. All right, this mesh size is a little bit too large, so I'm going to condense that a little bit. Usually the default's pretty good, but we'll reassign the node seating until we get about 2 to 3 nodes width of space here. I think 2.5 should be pretty good. Right? Manual node seating allows me to go through and select individual areas on my part and refine those. In this case, I think that's unnecessary. Right? The parameters, we like to have a 5-layer BLM for the part and a 3.0 offset ratio. Again, you can watch the meshing guide to understand why we assign these values. And then for the runner, in this case, we'll use the default here, which is 4 inner, 5 outer layers. And for the cooling channels, also the default, which is 2 inner, 3 outer layers. I'll go to generate. We see all of the components that we're going to be meshing. We have the part surface mesh, followed by the part in runner solid mesh, followed by our cooling system solid mesh. I'll hit generate to generate these in sequence. Once the meshing is complete, I can hit final check, and that will transition me over to the setup of my simulation. I'll press OK. That'll bring me back to the Home tab where I can continue setting up my analysis, starting with the material. Material that I select, I can go out to my material wizard to understand what properties I'm going to assign. In the Moldex3D material wizard, I can go to the Moldex3D tab, which is our public database. I'll scroll all the way down to the bottom of this Moldex3D tab, and I'll find all of the Thermoset materials down towards the bottom. I'm going to use the Momentive material here, and we'll go through the properties. For viscosity, we have a temperature dependency. Then we also have a heating rate dependency. The heating rate dependency is more or less going to dictate when the material cures. You see as the material's temperature increases, the viscosity decreases. Then at some point, the viscosity goes to infinity, meaning that the material reaches its gel point and begins to cure. The PVT information allows us to visualize the shrinkage of the part if we want to run a shrinkage analysis on these thermoset type materials. We'll be using this PVT data, which allows us to understand the relationship between specific volume, temperature, and pressure. That's what the PVT acronym stands for. Specific heat and thermal conductivity are generic heat transfer properties that allow us to consider the heat being transferred into the thermoset. Mechanical properties help us with the warpage analysis. And the last one here is curing kinetics, which the curing kinetics allows us to understand how the temperature and time-based effects impact the ability of the material or the speed of the curing process. We list the curing process as conversion percentage. And so a 0% cure means that the curing reaction has not started yet, and 100% means that the curing reaction has gone to completion. This curing kinetics can not only be used to understand the temperature effects, but as I alluded to earlier, you can also use this to understand the time-based effects. And you can watch the video here to understand how you can predict the cycle time based on the curing kinetics plot. To add this material into my project, I simply just right-click, Add to Project. I can confirm that that material's been added, and once I do, I can close out of the material wizard. Now, when I select a Thermoset material file for the injection molding module, I'm going to have 2 different processing types. The first one is a typical injection molding process. This will be a velocity-driven process. I can assign the maximum pressure for my system. I can assign the filling time, which is going to dictate the flow rate that's going to be used. And I can input the curing time, curing pressure, as well as the melt and mold temperatures. to shore up the rest of my process. This would be very similar to a standard injection molding process, just instead of a cooling type of process, it would be a heating type of process. So therefore the mold temperature is higher than the melt temperature. Both these values by default are implied by the material that I've selected. I can click next to go over to our heating settings, although it's the cooling tab. This is the heating type of calculation that we're going to be running. Under this tab, I can set my air temperature, which is the condition after the part has been ejected from the mold, how long the mold is open, and if the part is going to be ejected after the mold has been opened for a certain amount of time, you can set the ejection delay here. Below this is the mold preheat setting. Mold preheat is a type of analysis that we can run to consider the steady state condition of a heating process. Now, if you run the full warpage analysis, we do run a cooling simulation, which could consider the effects of heating as well. But this mold preheat can be ran before a filling analysis to get a better representation of the temperature distribution throughout the mold. This will impact when the material cures and what the distribution of curing looks like throughout your geometry. For the cooling channels, again, these are flow components. By default, they will refer to the mold temperature, which if you remember from the process, the mold temperature was higher than the melt temperature. And so these cooling channels, although they have the terminology of cooling, they actually are going to be a heating element with some sort of flow rate assigned here. And the coolant here will probably be either oil or steam. Down in the heating rod section, I can assign the conduction properties of my heating rods. There's a couple of different heating methods I can apply. I can either just set a temperature, in which case I just set the mold temperature directly, similar to the cooling channels, except there's no flow through these heating rods. They are purely conductive. Additionally, if you want to get a little bit more fancy with it, you can change this to from by temperature to by power. And then if you change to by power, then you can assign the wattage that you want to apply to that particular heating rod. You can press OK. And then down towards the bottom, we also have a cooling and heating setting, which this is what would be used in the standard cooling type of analysis. We call it a transient cooling type of analysis. And the settings here work exactly the same as in the mold preheat settings. The other type of process that we can assign in thermoset molding is a transfer molding process. The transfer molding process is going to be pressure limited and usually is representative of a plunger coming down and squeezing material from a transfer chamber into the part geometry through a small runner. I'll click next to go to the RIM tab. And in the RIM tab, I'm going to assign the transfer pressure, the transfer time, and then also the curing time and curing pressure. And you can profile both of those using the profile settings up here. The cooling settings work exactly the same as the standard injection molding process, and we can hit finish to save that process file. Now the analysis type you're going to be running here can vary depending on the intended outputs from the analysis. If you're trying to see the warpage of this part, then you can run a transient analysis, which will include a cooling, which in this case would be a heating type of simulation, then fill, cure, cooling, and warp. If you just want to see the flow through the geometry, the recommendation is to run a mold preheat followed by fill and then curing. That analysis sequence I can customize. I can do a mold preheat, then filling, and then curing. If you just want to see the flow of material, then you can omit the curing stage of the process. If you want to see how quickly the material is going to cure to define how long the process is going to need to be, then you need to include the curing into this process. And then we simply just run the analysis. Once the analysis is completed, we can start to look at the results. And over in our project tree, we should see that there is a filling and curing. And so the first thing I can look at is the flow progression through this geometry. To see the flow progression, I can simply go to Result, and then I can play the animation using the animation toolbar up at the top left. If the intent is to find any potential air traps in this geometry, Then I can use another result, which is pretty much the opposite of the melt front time, called air zone volume, which instead of tracking the material flowing through our geometry, it tracks how the air is escaping our geometry. So I can pull my animation back, and I can see when there's any disconnect happening in the melt front. In this case, we actually end up getting a small air bubble that occurs right at the edge of this lens. And this is a cause for concern, as it can prevent the air from escaping the mold and could create a short shot. And the last thing that we're going to look at in this video is the curing time. For our curing time estimation, I'm going to go to the conversion result, and it looks like at the end of curing, we have about 80% cure on the surface of my geometry, and I can use the clipping tool to see if that applies across the entire geometry as well, and it seems that that's the case. Thank you for watching this Moldex3D Thermoset quick start tutorial. If you'd like to see anything else covered in the future, you can leave a comment below. Please leave a like on your way out, and consider subscribing to the Moldex3D North America YouTube channel. It's completely free and really helps to push videos like this out to a wider audience. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.